If you think that walking is enough to strengthen your hips when you have osteoporosis, think again. In fact, studies show that postmenopausal women who only walk actually lose bone mass just slower than those who do nothing. So what does work? In this video, I'll show you the top 5 safe and effective exercises to build hip strength and reduce fracture risk backed by science. Here's what you can expect to learn. Why fracture risk depends on more than just bone density. There are actually about 3 or 4 factors that affect fracture risk, and bone density is just one of those. Then we'll discuss walking, the most common recommendation for osteoporosis. Then we'll discuss by how much does strength training increase bone density and reduce fracture risk. We'll talk about the top 5 exercises for the hips as well as strength training principles, because knowing the exercises is not enough. You have to know the other small details that add up to big results. Finally, just as important as it is to know what to do, it's important to know what not to do. We'll discuss that in this section. Before we jump in, who am I? My name is Igor. I'm the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Osteoporosis Reversal Secrets. As well, I run an online personal training company that specializes in osteoporosis reversal. And just so you don't think I'm some random guy on the internet with an opinion, I'm a personal trainer who actually works with clients one-on-one and sees the effects of these methods. Here's one example. Here is Darlene, and she was a jock up until the age of 46 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went through the standard treatment of chemotherapy, radiation, and eventually estrogen blockers. And as a result, her bone density declined. She was on the verge of osteoporosis, and we were able to strengthen her bones and turn that around. Here's Laura, who had a very long family history of osteoporosis, and in fact, she had it herself, and we were able to improve her bone density by between 4 and 7%, depending on the site. And here's Anne. In this picture, Anne is 60 years old, an accountant, was fit, ate a vegan diet, and to her surprise, but not ours, developed osteoporosis. We were able to strengthen her bones in a matter of just 4 months of training. So first, let's talk about walking, the most common recommendation for exercise when somebody has osteoporosis. Here is one study titled The Effectiveness of Physical Exercise on Bone Density in Osteoporotic Patients. In this study, bone mass was measured in postmenopausal osteoporotic women, and they found that these women, despite walking, lost bone mass. They just lost it slower than women who didn't exercise. There are 4 things that can happen to bone density. First, if you just live a sedentary lifestyle, bone density will decline guaranteed. If you walk, it'll still decline, just slower, which is not good. You don't want to decline at all. Better than that is to maintain already low bone mass. And the best option is to actually increase bone mass and bone density. And so that should be the standard of care, in my opinion, not just settle for slowing down the loss. You don't want a loss at all. Anyways, now, what are the best hip exercises? Squats are one of the best ones, but I emphasize deep squats. So what I mean by that is this is how most people do squats. They only go about halfway down or not even. That's not good. Instead, go for full deep squats. Try to get your butt to touch your heels. And the reason for that is because the primary muscle responsible for taking you from the bottom to halfway up is the glutes. And then from halfway up to all the way up is the quads. So if you're only going halfway down, you're shortchanging your results. Your results could be much better if you went all the way down. This really helps with the bone density at the femoral neck and the total hip. Another great hip exercise is step-ups. But here's the key. You have to step up to a fairly high platform. In other words, see and hear how the knee is at the same level as the hip. That's good, but it could be better. It could be better by making your knee go a lot higher than your hip. The reason this is important is because the higher the knee goes, the harder the glute works. The lower the knee goes, the less the glute works. If you want to maximize the effectiveness of this exercise, make sure your knee goes above the hip. If you don't have the strength for it initially, start with the lower step and over time work your way up. Another great hip exercise is the leg press. To make it more of a hip exercise and less of a quad exercise, you want to put your feet up higher on the platform, and that'll get your glutes working harder. Another great exercise, this is for a different part of the glutes, is abductions, where you sit on a machine like this, put your knees inside the pads, and move your knees out. This works a different part of the glutes called the gluteus medius. There are 3 major glutes: gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and gluteus minimus. The gluteus maximus is working predominantly in the previous few exercises. The gluteus Medius is working here. Yes, the maximus is working too, but the medius is working hard in this exercise. Another great exercise is lateral squats. So you go out to the side. This works, yes, the quads and the glutes, but in addition to that, we've added the inner thigh muscles known as the adductors. If the goal is to improve the total hip, the adductors do attach onto the pelvis and make that area stronger. Bones only get strong at the little area where the muscle pulls on them. So you want to work as many muscles around the hips as possible. The previous exercises don't really work the adductors, the inner thigh muscles, but this one does. Now, principles. Although I've listed 5 exercises, you don't need to do all 5. Select just 1 or 2 of these exercises and do them well with gusto. What does that mean? With the right exercise prescription. What is the exercise prescription? That is, you should be doing between 8 to 12 sets per muscle per week. Okay, which means you could do it 3 times per week for 3 or 4 sets. You could do it twice per week for 4 to 6 sets. Also, it's very important to use the correct technique. This is how you avoid getting hurt. You don't just want effectiveness, you want safety and effectiveness. You don't want one or the other, you want both. Another one is proper loading. One of the biggest mistakes that people with osteoporosis make is they don't use the appropriate load. If you think of exercise as medicine, in medicine you have to use the right dose for a medication to do what it's supposed to do. When it comes to strength training, part of the dose is the amount of weight you use. Other parts are the number of sets, number of reps, and frequency. And so here is the correct dose, the correct loading, the correct weight, which is you have to find a weight that you cannot do more than 12 times. If you can do a 13th, it's too light and you should raise the weight. It doesn't have to be an easy 12. Even if it's a difficult 12, raise the weight anyway. And most importantly, proper progression. Here is how to know when it's time to raise the weight. Very simple. You know how I said you should do between 8 to 12 reps? Aim for 12 every single time. If you're able to do 12, raise the weight next workout. If you can't do 12, keep the same weight. Okay? And this is the ultimate way to know. And again, I'm not saying you should do 12 easy reps. Even if the 12th rep was very, very difficult, but you did it with good technique, move on to the next weight, next workout. And you don't even have to do 12 reps on all 3 or 4 sets. As long as you could do 12 reps on one of those sets, move on to the next weight, next workout. So, um, if you're doing for the hips about for jumping, if you're just starting now, avoid high impact jumps. However, if you're not just starting now, if you've been strength training for at least 6 months consistently, properly, progressively, then jumping is safe if you progress it properly. Now, so far, we've only talked about jumping exercises for the hips, sorry, strength exercises for the hips if you have osteoporosis. But if you want to dive into other forms of exercise like jumping, if you want to dive into nutrition and supplementation, then I have a special video just for you. It's called the Stronger Bones Checklist, 6 steps to improve bone density naturally. This video is not available on YouTube. However, if you visit this link on your screen right now, as well as in the description below, you'll be able to get access to that video.